Welcome, Mawab. You're the peer for the inter-school activity of the International Sufi Movement. Thank you for meeting with me today to do this video recording. I'd like you to tell me a little bit more about the inter-school and about yourself. Maybe you can start with telling me a little bit about yourself.
Um, Thank you, Sabura. It's a privilege to talk to you, but I don't really have an awful lot to say about myself. Um, I was born in Canada. My first contact with Sufism was through a very interesting Norwegian man who had been a student of Hazrat Inayat Khan. He was called Bryn Biors. Through Bryn, whose Sufi name was Shamshir, I came to know Murshid Hidayat, who was the younger son of Hazrat Inayat Khan. And I worked with Murshid Hidayat for close to 40 years. Now I'm living in Norway with my wife. And before the virus came and changed everything, I was traveling quite extensively um, to give Sufi classes and workshops around the world.
And so if you could tell us about the inner school and share your view of its history and its purpose and how it helps to spread the message.
There has been a very long tradition, you could say a tradition as long as humanity, of people who work with their consciousness to try to attain real understanding of the truth. When I say as long as humanity, it's not an accident that in the religion of Islam, for example, Adam, the first human, is considered to be a prophet. He had an esoteric function. That means that as long as there have been people who were trying to understand the real meaning of life. That has been usually handed down as a tradition from teacher to student, and from student to the next student, and so on. And the same is true in the Sufi movement. We inherit the tradition from Hazrat Inayat Khan, who was a very gifted mystic and musician as well. And he gave the message to the world, which is the same message that has always been given by all the wise, the message of truth, the message of love, harmony, and beauty. And you ask, what does the inner school do for that? Well, that message can only be realized, can only be made into reality insofar as we live in accordance to the truth that's within us. And that is the purpose of an inner school, is to find that. So if we don't work on ourselves, we can mechanically repeat love, harmony, beauty, but it doesn't have any meaning. If we have worked on ourselves and made something out of the gift that we have been given, each person, then when we feel that in ourselves, we can transmit the message without saying anything.
So the term inner school is really just saying that it's the part of the Sufi movement that's involved with doing the internal work.
Exactly, exactly. The Sufi movement is a little unusual as far as Sufi organizations go, in that we have both an outer and an inner aspect. We don't look for people to join the inner school. That's entirely a personal decision. Um, but we do want to make available to everyone who wants it the teaching that every single person is a child of the divine presence, has that divine light in them. And by being faithful to that, we can fulfill the purpose of our life.
And so if I was interested in the inner school, how would I go about getting in contact with that school, and how would I go, and what would I expect from that? What kind of things might I do?
The inner school is based on experience. We call it a school, but it's not that there's anything to learn. In fact, Hazrat Anayat Khan said actually the principle is unlearning, because we all carry around a heavy load of preconceptions and dogmas and impressions. And what we really need to do is unlearn them, to erase those from our consciousness so that we can experience the world directly. That means that in order to know, first of all, if this is the path for you, you need to have some contact with it. You need to try to find some event, some Sufi movement event that you can attend and see if it speaks to you. If it helps you, then the next step would be to try to find someone that could be a guide, an initiator for you. And we have many in the organization who can help you along. And then you would take, if the guide thinks you're a plausible candidate, you take initiation, and you're given some practices, personal practices to work on, and you have regular contact with your guide, and life goes forward like that.
So you might tell people who are watching this if they could look on our website and look for information about activity centers where they live, that they could make connections with other people who are doing similar things.
Yeah, I could, but you've done it very well yourself. Thank you, Sabura.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do have, of course, events for initiated students. So those students we call murids. We have events for murids, but we also have events that are more open, where people can taste what it is. Um, I would say that it's important to know, how can I put this? It's important to let your heart make the judgment. It's not by your mind that you choose a spiritual path. It has to be by your heart. And so if you find someone that inspires you, and a teaching that gives you hope and animates you, then perhaps that's the path for you.
Well, thank you very much for this. Before we end this talk, is there anything else that you would like to tell us about the inner school?
Well, how long have we got? Um, I think that one of the challenges of the inner school in this age is this, that people look for immediate results, and they like to shop around and try one thing and try another. And that works for some kinds of activities, but it doesn't work for a spiritual path. The spiritual path requires real dedication. It requires the willingness to be a student all your life. Nowadays, many people think, well, I'll take a 6-week course and then I can become a teacher of whatever it is. That doesn't work in the spiritual path, in the inner school. We need to come with a willingness to learn, a willingness to trust. And of course, you can only really trust if you trust yourself as well.
Mhm. Well, thank you very much for meeting with me today and having this conversation. Many blessings. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you, Sabura, and blessings to you, and thank you for the time. I appreciate it very much.